Hey everybody, welcome back to Sneakers and Sports. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Canadian Elite Basketball League. I'm going to go over its brief history. I'm going to go over its current playoff format and what I would like to see change in regards to that going forward in the future. And then I'm going to introduce the teams and the players themselves. So let's get right into it. So the CEBL is in its sixth season this year. Ideally, I would have liked to have a season preview video up already, but the season started before I started this channel. So, we're gonna still give it some coverage and talk about it. Um, as I said, it's in its sixth season. The first year was in 2019, so it was able to survive through the COVID pandemic, which is really awesome to see. I know there are a lot of businesses worldwide and sports leagues, even for that matter, that didn't make it and weren't able to make it through. So it's really good that the CEBL was able to persevere and get through it. So it's really awesome that they're still here. When it originally started, they had six teams. We've now expanded out to having 10 teams in the league, so five per each conference, so it's nice and balanced. And what you see on the screen here was the 2023 regular season standings. So this was the standings for last year. The worst team in the league had seven wins, and that was Montreal. They were only 6 games back of the best team, which was Niagara with 13 wins. So it's a pretty balanced league, which is what you want out of a young league like this. You don't want to see one team dominating each year, or you don't want to see one or two teams dominating every year. So it's really good that it's balanced, and anyone can win in any given night. So you have to tune in, you have to watch. So that's exactly what the league is looking for. The championship winning team ended up being the Scarborough Shooting Stars there, the third seed in the East. And so how the playoff format works is, on the surface, it's the top three teams in each conference makes the playoffs. The number one seed has a bye to the conference finals, and then the number two and three seed play each other in the semifinals. Whoever wins that plays the top seed in the finals for the conference, and then whoever wins that game goes on to the championship game. That's pretty straightforward, but the thing that makes it a little bit different with the CEBL is that they have a host city every year, and they've decided to give a automatic invitation to championship weekend to that host team. So, for example, last year the host city was Vancouver, was in my home city, so they were automatically in the top four teams in the playoffs. So for the West, it was only two teams that could make the playoffs. So for the Western Conference semifinals, it was Calgary versus Winnipeg. So the two top teams in the West played in the semifinals of the conference. And then Calgary ended up winning. So it was Calgary versus Vancouver in the Western Conference finals. Calgary ended up winning that game because they are definitely the better team. They were the 12-8 record team versus an 8-12 record team. So Calgary went on to the championship game to face the Scarborough Shooting Stars, and then Scarborough got it done in the championship game. So the Scarborough Shooting Stars were your 2023 CEBL champions, but yeah, it's just a little bit different of a format there. That host city gets to automatically go to the conference final weekend. Um, and that is what I would like to see changed. It definitely is something that I would like to see them get rid of in the future. This year, Montreal is going to be the host city, so they're automatically going to be into the final four for the championship weekend. And I believe that they should earn their way there. I think if they're one of the top four teams throughout the regular season and then they play well in the playoffs and get there, that makes it even better. I think that makes it even more of a entertaining storyline. The fact that you have a home, the fact you have a home team playing there and they've earned their way there rather than just automatically getting a berth because they're hosting. I think there's a big difference, and I think that I would hope that the CEBL makes that change in the future. And I think that would really improve the league itself and the competitiveness of it. But that's my opinion on the playoff format. Everything else about it, I love. I wouldn't change, but yeah, get rid of the automatic berth for the host city. But let's get into it here. Let's meet the teams. So I think I have it from east to west. So in the top right-hand corner, you've got their conference standings there. You've got their records. So currently, the Montreal Alliance is third in the East with a 3-7 record. And then what I did was I I rank these players based on points per game average. So their top scorer right now is Jordan Bowden at 19.1. And then they have Chris Smith not far behind with 18 points per game. And then the other stats I have here are rebounds, assists, turnovers, steals, and blocks. So you can kind of get a good sense as far as who the best players are for each team. One way to look at who their best big guy is, their best center or their best, tall player is look at the rebounds. So I would say it's a good guess that Chris Smith is probably their best power forward or their best center because he's averaging 18 points and then 8.2 rebounds per game. So he's almost averaging a double-double. Safe to say he's probably their starting power forward or their starting center. I'm going to guess that Jordan Bowden is probably their starting small forward or shooting guard, maybe because he kind of has averages with rebounds and assists, averaging 3.9 rebounds, 2 assists per game. So yeah, and then other guys that are kind of contributing are Ahmed Hill with 15.5 points, 3.8 rebounds per game. And then it's safe to say that their point guard is player number 4 there, Elaine Lewis, who averages only 8.3 points, but averages 6 assists per game. So that's very important for the Montreal Alliance. And then, players 5, 6, and 7 kind of round out the starting lineup and the first few guys that come off the bench. That is the Montreal Alliance. So we'll get into the next team here, the Ottawa Blackjacks. They're currently 4th in the East, 2-6 record. This team has very balanced scoring. I mean, their top scorer is Isaiah Moore with 17.8, but then you go down to player number 7 and Jakeenan Gant, and he's still scoring 11 points per game. So this team would be hard to beat if every player is playing their best. Because you stop, the first guys, Isaiah Moore and Tyrell Tate, you still have to guard guys like Brandon Sampson, Lloyd Pandy, and Jakeenan Gant, as I mentioned. So would be pretty scared if I was an opponent to see these guys playing well. If they go on a streak, they start putting some wins together, I think this would be a pretty dangerous team. So yeah, that's the Ottawa Blackjacks. Getting into one of the original 6 teams, we've got the Brampton Honey Badgers. And at the top, actually, they have 2 players that are tied in points per game with 16.99. It's Zane Waterman and Shamil Stevenson. And they also have very similar rebounds. So this is kind of a two-headed monster here. But then don't count out guys like Prince Oduro, 16 points, 8 rebounds. He's probably their best big guy. And then they have Javante Cook, LJ Thorpe. So again, pretty balanced scoring. Rebounding, a little bit more on the side of their big guys, and then assists. Their top assist getter is LJ Thorpe with 5.3, so he's probably their starting point guard there. And yeah, again, an original 6 team. They're currently 5th in the East at 3-8, but again, they have 3 wins. 3rd place has 3 wins. So, in the CEBL, looks like all you have to do is go on you have to go on a bit of a win streak, and then you can find yourself towards the top of the conference. So we'll get into our next team here in the Niagara River Lions. Again, I believe another original 6 team. Javon Blair is their top scorer at 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists. We have to look towards player number 4 and RN Rai. He's their top rebounder, 6.6 rebounds per game. So safe to say he might be their power forward or center there. Top assists producer is Omari Moore with 11.2 points, 6.3 rebounds, but 5.8 assists. First place in the East, 6-3 record. So it looks like they have a bit of a stranglehold so far in the East. But there's still time left. There's still about half a season, so they got to keep it going here. And then the defending champions, Scarborough Shooting Stars, 5-4 so far in the East. Hovering around 500. That's fine at this point. 9 games in. I think they may have 11 games left. So still time to put it together and get on a run. We've got our first player that scores above 20 points per game in Donovan Williams. He's at 22.3. Along with 6 rebounds per game and 2.5 assists. Tavion Jones, 16.8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Pretty solid numbers there. Jackson Rowe, 16.3 points and 7.9 rebounds, probably their top big man. He's probably their starting power forward or center. So yeah, those are your defending champions. They're 5-4 and second in place in the East right now. So they still have a good chance to defend their crown. So let's see if they can do it to the second half. So now we're going to get into the West. First team in the West we've got is the Winnipeg Sea Bears. They're currently last place in the West, but they're only one game below 500. So we just mentioned our first 20 plus point per game scorer, and we have two on this team. This is definitely a two-headed monster here with Teddy Allen and 28.1 points per game and Justin Wright Foreman with 27.7. These guys are very dangerous, clearly. They also like to distribute the ball. They average together, they average 8.5 assists. So these guys are probably on pace for both of them are on pace for an all, the equivalent of an all NBA selection or an all-star selection if the CEBL does all-star selections. They're playing very, very well right now. We also have our first player that averages a double-double, that averages more than 10 rebounds a game, and Darius Days. So congratulations to him. Hopefully he can keep it up throughout the rest of the regular season. He's averaging 15.3 points and 10.7 rebounds. So that is awesome. This Winnipeg Sea Bears, I feel like, should have a better record than what they have based on their individual player stats. But just goes to show you that individual stats doesn't always mean wins. So I believe the reason that they're 4-5 is that they give up the most points per game out of all of the teams in the league. So they can score. Don't get me wrong; they can definitely score the rock, but it's about defense at the end of the day that wins you games and wins you championships. So hopefully the Winnipeg Sea Bears can lock it down on the defensive end and get some wins. The next team we have is another Original Six squad, the Saskatchewan Rattlers. Probably a MVP candidate, if not an all-star for sure. And Jalen Harris, 26.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 4.4 assists. So pretty average splits across the rebounds and assists there. Definitely their reliable scorer, their number one option. But after that, they've got Bryson Williams, who's averaging 17 points and 9 rebounds. So he's close to a double-double there. And then they also have Elijah Harkless, who's averaging 16.4 points and 6.6 rebounds. Grant Basile, hopefully I pronounced that right, 16 points and 8.7 rebounds. So this is a very impressive rebounding team. They have 4 players that average at least 6.5 rebounds a game. And that's not even their number one scorer that's included in that. So their starting five is probably very tall, I would assume. That'd be my guess. They have a tall starting five, but also just a very active, a very good defensive starting five. Their top assist producer is Elijah Harkless, so he's probably their point guard. And when your point guard's averaging 6.6 rebounds, that's really good. You have a good defensive rebounding team. That they really, really take care of the basketball and they really value that ball. So it's really good to see. They're currently third in the West with a 5-4 record. So, they're playing, pretty decent ball overall this season. If they explode for a 3-game win streak, that could be dangerous for the rest of the league, right? So we'll see how they progress as the season goes on. The Edmonton Stingers is the next team here. So we've gone down as far as scoring now. There's a bit of a dip for these guys with only 17 points as their highest point producer and Trey McGowan's. But if you look over into their record, they're 7-2, second in the West. So it goes to show you that just scoring and putting up points and having great individual stats does not automatically mean your team's going to win. Just because you're the top scorer on your team and you can score almost 30 points a game, that's great. But can you stop the ball on defense? Can your team get stops? Can your team get crucial rebounds, at important moments in the game, right? Those are the things that you need to have with a team. And this is what this team has. I've never watched them play. I've never seen any film, but I can tell you without a doubt that this team is a very defensive-minded team because they value the ball. They value getting stops when they need it. And their points and their record prove that, because if you have your top scorer is only 17 points, but yet your record is 7-2, you've only lost twice. that means that you have a lockdown defense, and that means that you are efficient as far as scoring on the offensive end. They have 6 players that average over 10 points per game, so it's a pretty balanced scoring. This team definitely won't be represented at the All-Star game or at the awards ceremony, I'll tell you that. But they will probably, I can guarantee you, they'll probably be in the playoffs. They'll probably be a contending team for their championship. So, you know, watch out for the Edmonton Stingers. This team looks very dangerous. I barely even mention names, but it's a team effort. That's the thing, is that this team looks like they're all on the same page and they know exactly what they're doing and what their game plan is. So we'll see how that goes throughout the season. Next team we've got is the Calgary Surge. They're currently 4th in the West at a 4-5 record. So as you can see, the West is very competitive. If you're 4th place and you're at a 5-4 record, you know, you're not far off from first. So again, another pretty balanced team. Sean Miller-Moore is our top scorer at 18.8. Also gets 6.2 rebounds a game, so it might be their starting power forward or center. Corey Davis Jr. is the next highest scorer at 14.4. He might be their point guard or shooting guard, because he also averages 3.9 rebounds and 5.8 assists. So those are definitely their most 2 important players there. Nothing really stands out a lot to me from this team, but again, they're only 1 game out of 500, so they put on a couple of wins and they beat, you know, the teams above them. We could see them in the playoffs later this year. So that's the Calgary Surge. And last but not least, certainly not least, we've got my hometown team, the Vancouver Bandits, formerly known as the Fraser Valley Bandits, an original 6 team. So yeah, it's currently 1st in the West, 7-2 record, tied with the Edmonton Stingers as far as record goes. But as you can see, big difference here. They have a little bit more scoring, a little bit more balance as far as offense versus defense. So I think those 2 teams, it'll be an interesting matchup when we see them throughout the rest of the regular season, and then hopefully in the playoffs as well. That'd be a pretty fun matchup to see, Vancouver versus Edmonton. Top scorer for the Bandits is Curtis Hollis, 21 points per game, 6 rebounds. After that, it's Taze Moore, 20 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, 7.7 assists. So safe to say he's definitely their most valuable player. The one thing I do know about Taze Moore is that he played a few games for the Portland Trailblazers in the NBA. So there are many players in this league that have had some sort of NBA experience, whether they were drafted and they're on the training camps for certain teams for a couple of years, or you know, they played in the summer league for that team that year, or they actually played in a couple of games and were signed signed with a 2-way contract on an NBA team. So these aren't just random guys that just kind of were, you know, hoping to find some sort of professional basketball league to play in and happen to be signed here. No, these guys are legit players. You know, they play overseas in the winter, and then they come in the summer and they play here. So there's a lot of talent in this league. It's the Canadian Elite Basketball League for a reason. They make it mandatory for each team to have a certain amount of Canadian players on the roster. So they want to keep it at least somewhat Canadian of a league. But they also understand that, you know, we want to showcase the great game of basketball. So, you know, yeah, we want to have some sort of Canadian talent and Canadian flair involved in the league every year, but we also just want to show off amazing basketball, and we want to showcase, you know, amazing talents. So that's exactly what the Canadian Elite Basketball League has done. They've found a good balance between, you know, making it mandatory to have Canadian players, but also just, you know, let's bring in the best players available, right? So this is the standings as of today. So as I said, the current leaders in the league are the Vancouver Bandits and Edmonton Stingers at 7-2. And then after that, you've got the Niagara River Lions over in the East with a 6-3 record. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting second half of the CEBL season. We'll see who rises to the top of the standings, who falls, who stays the way they are, who comes out of the woodworks, who comes out of nowhere and becomes a superstar for the league. We're going to find out, right? That's why we play the game. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited for the playoffs to happen, and we'll check back with you guys with the CEBL maybe in a month or two, and I'll probably be doing I'll probably do a playoff preview for this as well. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot about the league itself. I hope you learned a few new players' names, and I hope you're excited to go and watch. The TSN actually airs these games, so you can actually catch these games on TSN. Um, Definitely check it out. Um, Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.